Right boys, welcome to the 28th video on my channel. League 2 wage bills for the 25-26 season have recently been released, and trust me, some of these numbers will shock you. From the teams punching above their financial weight to the ones shelling out serious cash for promotion dreams. Today we're going to be ranking every single one of them from top to bottom, so whether you're here to size up on your rivals, check in on your club, or just love a good bit of football finance drama, you're in the right place. And number 24, we've got Accrington Stanley. Accrington Stanley are a team who have often punched above their weight for large parts of the club's history, with the lowest annual wage expenditure in the division, £1,881,200. John Doolan's side are looking for a more comfortable campaign after securing their place in the 4th tier by just 1 point last term. Stanley have a 26-man squad this year, and that figure would equate to an average of £72,353.85 per player, which is an average of £1,391.42 a week, which despite the lowest in League 2 would still be double the average UK salary. On number 23, we've got Bromley with an annual wage bill of £2,103,400. Reaching the EFL for the first time in their history in 2024, Bromley's rise through the divisions has been spectacular, and the achievement is put into more context when they're the second lowest wage bill in the league. With a squad size of 23, the average Bromley player makes £1,905.25 per week. On number 22, we've got Barnet. Returning to the Football League after 7 years away earlier this year, Barnet are looking to settle down in the 4th tier, with the club currently on course for a mid-table finish. Despite operating on a shoestring budget compared to other London clubs and others in the division, they're looking to cement their place as an EFL club for the future once again. Barnet's annual wage bill is £2,230,800, which for a fairly decent squad size of 28 would give an average weekly wage bill of £1,659.82, which is obviously lower than Bromley's, and it's actually not great considering they're a London club. Multiple web pages say you need to be earning at least 70 grand a year to have a comfortable life in London, and the average Barnet player is making about 79 grand a year. On number 21, we've got Oldham. Oldham supporters have seen their club go through its fair share of financial struggles over the last decade, but after a period of obscurity in the National League, the Latics secured their place in the Football League via the playoffs earlier this calendar year. Despite being quite a big club, they're looking to cement themselves back in the division on a low budget in comparison to the others in the division. Oldham's annual wage bill comes in at £2,628,600. This gives the average Oldham player a weekly salary of £1,955. At number 20, we've got Newport with an annual wage bill of £2,763,800. Locked to the bottom of League 2 at this moment in time, Newport are currently in a battle to keep themselves in the Football League after a stint stretching back from 2013. Newport are partly a fan-owned club, and the budget isn't the highest, although disappointment may arise when you compare it to other sides of lower expenditures already mentioned on this list. Based on a 29-man squad, the average Newport player will take in £1,985.49 a week. At number 19, we've got Cheltenham. Relegated from League 1 in the 2023-24 season, Cheltenham are now in their second season back in League 2, and they're operating with a wage bill much lower than expected for a side that was recently in the 3rd tier. Currently battling to stay in the division, the club has been in free fall this season after a mid-table finish last time around. The wage bill this season comes in at exactly £2,873,000, and with a 30-man squad, the average player makes £1,995.14 a week. We're getting so close to that £2 grand mark. On number 18, we've got Harrogate Town, which in all fairness, I thought they'd be lower. Harrogate are in their 6th consecutive League 2 season, while still operating with one of the league's lowest wage bills. We finally surpassed the £2,000 mark, with the average Harrogate player making just over £2 grand a week, which is 100 grand a year, the same as the average brain surgeon. Harrogate's annual wage bill comes at £2,922,400, spread among 29 players. On number 17, to break the 3 million mark, we've got Crewe Alexandra with an annual wage bill of £3,125,200. The average Crewe player makes £2,170 a week, and Crewe's reliance on their homegrown talent remains central, and the wage bill reflects that. Not blessed with the biggest budget in the division, but the club are looking to push promotion back to League 1, which they will consider to be their level. On number 16, we've got Shrewsbury Town. After relegation from League 1 last term, Shrewsbury are in a free-for-all, though their wage bill does not exactly reflect a side that was in the 3rd tier so recently. Finding themselves in a relegation battle, they're aiming to climb out the relegation places and settle down in the 4th tier. Their annual wage bill comes in at £3,333,600, but with an incredibly small squad of 21, their average player is actually making a lot more than people think. Based on a 21-man squad, the averages work out just over £3,300 a week per player, which is obviously a lot more than the teams just mentioned, and will be a lot more than some other teams that to come up. Not quite as bad as it seems. On number 15, we've got Walsall. After missing out on promotion last term, the Saddlers are aiming to get themselves back into League One, the level that most fans consider themselves to be at in terms of size. Walsall's ownership have invested, but they haven't got one of the top expenditures in the division. The wage bill this season comes in at £3,403,400, which means the average Walsall player will take home £2,444 a week. A lot less than the average Shrewsbury player based on squad size, but a lot more than the other teams just mentioned. Personally, I thought Walsall would be a bit higher, and especially higher than some of the teams that's come up in this list. On number 14, we've got Grimsby Town with an annual wage bill of £3,507,200. Despite unfortunately having to be in Grimsby most days a week, you'll take home a decent wage of £2,810 a week on average. Grimsby are looking to return to League 2 stability and beyond after bouncing between divisions in recent years. This is a third consecutive season back in the 4th tier, and the wage bill is beginning to point in the direction of the club that is more than settled in the division. They are definitely a top 5 club in terms of club size though, so I guess you could say it's a little bit surprising they're only 14th. On number 13, we've got Colchester United. Colchester begin their third straight year in League 2 after relegation from the 3rd tier in 2023. Their annual wage bill of £3,707,600 sits around mid-table and reflects a squad overhaul designed to push them away from the relegation battles, which define the last stint in the 4th tier. With a squad size of 25 though, the average player makes over £3,000 a week. On number 12, we've got Fleetwood Town. Now this one really surprised me because you think based on club size, Fleetwood Town will be right at the bottom. Fleetwood's annual wage bill this season is £3,712,800. Based on a relatively small squad size of 24, the average player makes £3,222.92, which isn't bad at all for little old Fleetwood. On number 11, we've got Tranmere Rovers, who in their 4th consecutive League 2 season maintain a competitive but restrained wage budget. After narrowly avoiding relegation this previous year, the club are aiming for a much more comfortable season in the 4th tier this time around. Tranmere's annual wage bill this season comes in at £3,788,400, which based on a 25-man squad comes in at £3,157 a week on average. Now moving on to the top 10 highest wage bills this season, it becomes even more surprising. On number 10, we've got Crawley Town. Some way, little old Crawley Town, the club everyone used to joke about as being the plucky underdog, have crashed their way into the top 10 highest wage bills in League 2 this season. This is a football club that not that long ago were dealing with ownership chaos, memes flying around on Twitter, and half of the football world calling them a crypto experiment gone wrong. Fast forward to now, and they're out spending some proper big hitters in the league. Their annual wage bill this season comes in at £3,801,200, meaning their average player makes £2,933 a week. At number 9, we've got Notts County, who I anticipated would be higher. Notts County are a big club for League 2, got a big stadium, annual wage bill of £4,157,400, meaning their average player makes £3,331 a week. But I'm not going to say anything more because the next one will shock you. Barrow, at number 8, have a higher wage bill than Notts County. Notts County have played Juventus more times than Barrow have been in the EFL. Okay, maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but Barrow are an extremely small club who've only spent 29 seasons in the EFL, and based on club size, they should be at the lower end of this list. Their annual wage bill comes in at £4,206,800, and based off a 25-man squad, the average player makes £3,505.67 a week. On number 7, we've got Gillingham with an annual wage bill of £4,236,000. Gillingham were relegated from League 1 in 2022, but have not sustained a real promotion push since. They're in the mix for playoff football as of now, and will be aiming to push for the 3rd tier with a relatively high wage bill compared to other clubs in the 4th tier. Gillingham are a relatively big club though, so I'm not too surprised about this one. Going off a 29-man squad, the average player makes just over £3,000 a week. On number 6, we've got Swindon Town. An annual wage bill of £4,326,400 and a weekly wage bill of about £83,200. Still less than Leicester City's Harry Winks, who's on 90 grand a week in the Championship though. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Swindon are definitely up there with the biggest clubs in League 2, and yes, they've got a top 6 wage bill, but they've got quite a big squad. Based on a 30-man squad, their average player is only making £3,004 a week. I say only, but that's even less than the likes of Barrow and even Shrewsbury's players, who are 16th in terms of annual wage bill. On number 5, we've got Chesterfield. Chesterfield are in their 2nd season back in the EFL, and after reaching the League 2 playoffs last term, they're aiming to win promotion to League 1 this season. And with the wage bill in mind, they'll be aiming to reach League 1 sooner rather than later. Their annual wage bill this season comes in at £4,521,400, and based on a 27-man squad, the average player makes £3,488.74 a week. At number 4, we've got Salford City, a small club but a heavily funded club to say the least. Back from the likes of Gary Neville, David Beckham and the rest of the class of 92, Salford boast ambitions higher than a lot of clubs in League 2. Following the rise through the division, Salford are yet to reach level higher than League 2 though, and the wage bill of £4,620,000 122,800 highlights this. Their average player makes £3,439 a week. Number 3, and one that has definitely surprised me, we've got Cambridge United. Cambridge's annual wage bill this season comes in at £4,852,400, and based on a 24-man squad, we've got the highest weekly wage bill so far, on average. Their average player makes £4,212.15 a week, which is significantly more than the likes of Notts County's players. Yes, they were in League One last season, and they'll be looking to go back up there, but that's a big wage bill for a club the size of Cambridge. Alright, now we're into the big money section of the list. Both of these clubs are churning out over £5 million a year on wages, and they're throwing cash around like they're already planning for life in League One. In second place, we've got Bristol Rovers with a massive wage bill of £5,152,400 and a squad size of 27 players. Do the maths on that one, and the average Rovers player makes £3,975 and 62 pence a week. And not too surprising for a club the size of Bristol Rovers. But top of the list at number 1, who would have guessed? MK Dons. MK are dropping an eye-watering amount of £5,569,200 on wages this season. Spread across 29 players, that means that the average MK Dons player is making about £4,000 a week. These two aren't just spending big, they're spending like they want out of League 2 immediately. And the same can be said for their transfers this season. But anyway, yeah boys, I'm going to end the video there. I do hope you enjoyed. Comment down below what sorts of videos you want to see next. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, see you in the next one.